So, despite the news being quite controversial in nature, Kyle Kulinski of Secular Talk seems to, generally speaking, avoid any sort of being embroiled in any sort of controversy. Someone who's often embroiled in controversies is someone like David Pakman, where people are constantly going after him for different things, like his take on Venezuela or Israel or whatever it may be. But seems to be the case that Kyle kind of, for the most part, just kind of doesn't end up in any of those sort of whatever you want to call them, controversies, battles, whatever you want to say. And, there are the few select times in which, something like this happens where his audience doesn't agree with him and they voice their opinion. So, Kyle has not been a fan of Mike Gravel since he launched his campaign. Mike Gravel, if you don't know who he is, he's a former senator. He also ran back in 2008. In fact, was on the debate stage, a couple of debate stages for the debate for president. And there's a clip of him actually calling out Obama for taking big fundraiser money. When there's a little sort of like loophole, if you will, where you just gather a bunch of rich people and then they all give maxed out donations of $2,700. It's like this huge number of like hundreds of thousands of dollars that come out from it. He called him out for that. So Mike Gravel has some street cred. He's got the precedent, like he's got the receipts to show for who he is. But what his campaign is for, he's running not to win, but rather he wants to push progressive ideals and then just drop out and endorse who he views as the most progressive candidate. So Kyle Kulinski does not seem to be a big fan of this. And let's hear what he has to say.
Is that Mike Gravel has said, or his team has said, I don't know which, that he's not running to win. He's just running to be an issues candidate to get on the debate stage to push certain issues. Now, some people have disagreed with me on this, but I really, really, really dislike that kind of stuff. I hate the I'm not running to win people because it is by definition a gimmick. What you're doing is a gimmick. You don't actually want to be president. You're not actually trying to win. You're just doing a gimmicky thing, okay? So, and if you think, hey, that's not cool, Kyle, he's your ideological ally to some extent. Yeah, but so was Lawrence Lessig when he ran for president in 2016. And the second he hopped in the race, I was like, what are you doing? Because he's another guy. His whole thing was like, it was actually a little different than Gravel. Larry Lessig said, no, I am running to win, but my only issue is getting money out of politics, and the second I get money out of politics, I will step down. So I'm a single-issue guy. This is the only issue. Corruption is the only issue that really matters because it affects all other issues. So the second I get that done, I will step down. And everybody was just like, what the fuck? What? Why are you doing this? Yeah, we get it. Corruption is bad, but what are you doing? And at the time, Bernie Sanders was already in the race, and it was like, it just seems ridiculous that you're running and it's just too gimmicky. There's too much going on around it to run and say, oh, I'm just trying to get in the debates to push certain issues. And okay, what are those issues? Well, for Mike Gravel, one of the main ones is foreign policy. And it's like, okay, well, there's also Bernie and Tulsi Gabbard who are saying the exact same things and they actually have a chance. So for you to say, it just really rubs me the wrong way when people say, I'm not trying to win. Okay, then get out. What do you want me to tell you? That's ridiculous. And then also into the congressional record, which proved how the U.S. was doing war crimes, using Agent Orange on innocent villagers and bombing innocent villagers. And so I have nothing against the guy personally. In fact, I think he's wonderful, and I would agree with him on many, many things. I just really don't like the I'm running and I'm not trying to win thing. Now, having said that, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think he may have just qualified for the next debate, and many others have done it as well. And I think what Gravel's goal will be is to just totally take out the establishment hacks. He will try his best to take out the establishment hacks. And we'll see how that goes. I hope that he succeeds in, basically being a bull in a china shop and taking out Kamala and taking out Joe Biden. But I'm actually not totally sure he's in the next debates yet. So I don't know. I guess go to his website to check to see if he's in the next debates. And if you want to see him in the debates, then go ahead and, donate $1 or whatever it may be to get him into the next debates. But nonetheless, that's my breakdown. And then also, apparently they said they're going to use the funds, like whatever leftover funds he has, they're going to use it to go to Flint, Michigan. Well, if that's true, then that's wonderful, and I give them a lot of credit.
All right, so there are a couple of things going on here. So his first thing that he says is basically that what Mike Gravel's doing is a gimmick. Now, kind of, but I would see, for me, it's not a gimmick because he's being upfront, like, I'm not running to win. To me, it'd be a gimmick if you're running not to win, but you're not telling people, because he's upfront, advertised upfront, like, you know what I'm saying? He's telling you, like, I'm not running to win. To me, it'd be a gimmick if he didn't tell you that. And there are a lot of gimmicky candidates right now, obviously. Do you think Eric Swalwell thought that he had a chance to win? You think Tim Ryan thinks he has a chance to win? You think John Hickenlooper thinks he has a chance to win? None of these people believe that they can win. They're just running to get, name recognition. And also someone like Eric Swalwell was basically, my understanding of it is that he was banking on the idea that Kamala Harris would become president and that would result in him being able to run for her Senate seat or whatever. But these people, they're not, disclosing something. I think as long as you disclose it, that's fine to me. And also, I would say that there's there's a certain boundaries that people like Tulsi and Bernie have. Now, Bernie, for example, I mean, not only does he have boundaries, obviously, because he's given such a huge double standard by the media where someone like Pete Buttigieg can basically say that, he doesn't like Bernie Sanders, but if Bernie says anything about any other candidate, he's called divisive. But of course, Pete Buttigieg, if he says it, it's just A-okay, real fine, it's all good, it's all gravy, it's fine. But, I think that because of that, I think Mike Gravel would have a good role in the debates, because then he doesn't have to hold any bars, he doesn't have to, watch for any boundaries, he doesn't have to be careful in any way, because he's not running to win, and so it doesn't matter. That's the beauty of Mike Gravel's campaign. And so I think he didn't make the debates because I think the DNC did not allow him in, although he did make the 65K donor mark. I thought that he would have been good. And also what's really interesting to me is, he was a really big fan, or at least maybe that's not a proper characterization. He was a fan of Richard Ojeda, if you guys recall. Richard Ojeda had no chance to win whatsoever. Now, he didn't say that he was, that he wasn't running to win, obviously. But do you honestly believe Richard Ojeda thought he had a chance to win? And, one of the things that Kyle always talked about in his show was that, Richard Ojeda would be Bernie Sanders' attack dog. And so I don't understand why he's not just applying that to Mike Gravel here. Seems to be kind of odd, and I don't agree with him on that. Not that it's a huge deal, but I don't. And I know I believe I had seen that David Dole from the Rational National also in the beginning was not a fan of Mike Gravel, but I think now he supports him and he came around to supporting him. So it seemed like there were a couple of people who weren't exactly fans of the Mike Gravel campaign who were commentators, but. An interesting point he brought up there was Larry Lessig that he brought up, because I actually remember Larry Lessig running last time around, and I was reading it, and I saw that Cenk Uygur, I believe Cenk Uygur in the beginning had endorsed him for president, and I was like, what? But Bernie Sanders is in the race, why are you doing this? That doesn't make any sense. And so, those are the different dynamics. Larry Lessig was running to win. He was a one-issue candidate. I believe he was going to literally resign and just have his VP take over after he was to implement money in politics. Complete lunacy, obviously. You're not going to win. B, Bernie Sanders is already in the race. Why would you be running? He's a progressive who's running on the same thing you are, except he's a real candidate, and he's like a holistic, platform. He talks about all issues, not just money in politics. This is different. Mike Gravel is just an attack dog who's just getting in to call people like Kamala, Biden, almost said Obama, Biden, and all these other corporatists who are in the lead to, peg him down. And he's not running to win. So it's entirely rational what he's doing. So I'm not exactly sure what's so off-putting to Kyle about the fact that he's basically upfront with the purpose of his campaign, which is straight up, I'm not running to win. I'm just trying to really push these issues, really go ham on these certain candidates that I don't like. I think that's great, and I think it's, most importantly, rational. I find that to be an entirely rational thing to do. I really do. I find it to be a rational thing to do. But the Larry Lessig thing, I agree with him, is really stupid. I thought that was just completely dumb. It didn't make any sense, and I was very kind of like whacked out by that as well. But again, Bernie and Tulsi, they have boundaries that they have to stay within. Mike Gravel doesn't have to have any. He doesn't have any boundaries. He's going to be an attack dog. That's what would be great about him. But unfortunately, I do believe that his campaign is actually over. It's pretty much. I think it's done because he didn't get into the debate, and I believe that he has stated that if he doesn't get into this upcoming debate, which is in like a week, that he would indeed drop out. He would announce the end of his campaign. So, this video, there was not many people who actually had agreed with this video, actually. So, for example, here's a comment. It says, "You're dead wrong on this. Gravel will go after Biden, Harris, Buttigieg, no holds bar." It says Bernie and Tulsi won't. Having him in the debate stage is fundamental to exposing these charlatans. 100%, of course. It says, "Hi, Kyle. Got news for you. 15 of the Dem candidates are gimmicks." Another person says, "No, dude. Gravel will bring up a lot of things that Bernie can't. Sex workers' rights, military cuts, attacking other fake candidates, etc." Another person says, "Okay, I dislike this video a lot. I feel like Kyle is too much of a Bernie fan and criticizes Gravel without actually reading up on him and listening to him. He's awesome and much needed." This comment I actually don't agree with. I don't think that it has anything to do with him being too much of a Bernie fan. I just don't. I don't really see that personally. I think that he's just sort of taking what Mike Gravel is doing in the wrong way for some reason. Another one says, "I think Mike Gravel's participation in debates would be very useful to destroy corporate Dems and helpful for Bernie." Again, I totally agree with that 100%. Another person says, "Disagree with you on this one, Kyle. I'm still voting for Bernie, but the more voices saying these things, the better. Bernie didn't run to win in 2016. I'm not actually sure if that one's true. Gravel is the most progressive candidate in the race. He's a true leftist. Bernie refuses to attack." That's also another thing also that I didn't actually fully touch on here. But you guys kind of get the points in terms of the comments here. Bernie had this type of attack dog nature. He could easily be the perfect candidate. I enjoy your channel, Kyle, but I have to disagree with you here. The establishment's packing the debate stage, so progressives need to do the same. Don't let your sense of righteousness cloud your view of the big picture, which is to put a progressive into office. I'm not sure if it's his righteousness, but I agree with the overall sentiment. Another one says, "I have to disagree with Kyle on this," and just keeps, there are a lot of, this is not a good one. Mike Gravel's like an older, nuttier version of Jimmy Dore. It's kind of true. But the comment that I wanted to actually expand on is the one in which the person had made the statement that basically Bernie Sanders kind of refuses to really go after certain candidates or, the main candidates. And he really treats his opponents with kid gloves very often. He did that in 2016. He was all against running negative ads against her and stuff like that. I personally am not a fan of that strategy, but it seems like he's going to take that to the bank. He's really weak on going after his opponents. I really don't like that, and I think if he loses this election, that will be the culprit. The culprit will be his sort of lack of aggressiveness. Now, some of you guys may disagree with that, but I just think that calls more for a Mike Gravel as candidate. But let me know your thoughts on this down below. Very curious to hear them.